Viewers, welcome to the Policy Times, India's only channel on public policy activism and advocacy. At a time when you don't find media talking about sense, we actually bring out the issues which make sense to the development agenda of the country. Now, I am extremely fortunate that we have with us Professor Irfan Habib. He doesn't need any introduction. The famous, I think, one of the very few historians left in this country who can talk about facts without distortion. Professor Habib, welcome to our show, sir, and thank you so much for agreeing to give the interview. So the first question, I want to start with the controversy of name changing game which is happening across the country, and you made a very interesting statement. You said that the name itself, when the ruling government wanted to change the name of Allahabad to Prayagraj or something, and then a lot of railway stations, a lot of cities and all. You said the name Amit Shah came from a Persian word. The name itself is a Persian word. What does this narrative actually reflect, sir, in long run? It is historically correct.
It was one aspect of it. So many personal names are of Persian or Arabic origin. Shah is one, Majumdar is another, Munshi is third. So clearly, as in every language, every country, there is a large amount of number of influences, internal and external. So just because some name is external, to change it, whether it's a place name or personal name, seems absurd. India has many names borrowed from other countries, other languages, so would be any country there. Any country, you take any country, this would have the same.
So now there is an effort to, the one section of the people is saying that there is an effort to distort the history. But now in this age of internet, do you think that a government can control, history teaching to its students?
Actually, internet doesn't matter in this because you can have a totally false proposition advocated at the internet. Internet doesn't mean that whatever is communicated is correct. History, of course, can't be changed. What has happened, happened the way that it happened. You can't just by imagination or by official fact say that things happen this way, as we tend to do particularly under the BJP regime. The task of the historians is to get accuracy, not what is desirable. And of course, views will change on what is desirable. So, clearly the task of a historian is to be objective, first establish the facts, and when the facts are established as accurately as possible, only then interpretation can come in. But if you have facts wrong, your interpretation will of course be wrong.
So, what I see personally, though I am not a student of history, but what I see, any chai wala, rickshaw wala, graduate, non-graduate, chowkidar, anyone can challenge a PhD scholar in history on any historical facts. And there is no boundary in that, and especially with the rise of social media, people are totally confused what is history and what is distortion, what is propaganda. In such a scenario, how do you now suggest to protect the facts from fiction?
Well, the distortion of history is not coming from rickshawalas, it is coming from the Prime Minister and other politicians. Of course, it's not the case with engineering also, with history alone. It's also about scientists. If you say that such and such a thing, plastic surgery was possible in early days in India, as the Prime Minister said, then of course he is not only defying historians, he is defying the medical profession. So history doesn't stand alone as a profession. There are a large number of professions involved in different aspects of history. So, what a distortion of history means is that you actually um, go against the evidence not only of documents or other historical sources, but also of other sciences, even physical sciences.
Now, do you think that this government, whichever state governments or central governments, especially the BJP and NDA-led government, they are trying to distort the history is to regain the glory of Hinduism and Hindutva, or it is also to give a new direction to the country for future?
I think um, both are involved here. Uh, India was constructed in 1947 and then by the Constitution as a secular country, a concept with which the RSS never agreed. They also did not agree with many of the laws made, like the Hindu Code and the Zamindari Abolition Acts and the agrarian reforms. They all opposed them. So clearly, what the BJP and RSS regime wants is that India should change direction. And it is in order to get a change of direction that they must distort not only history, past history of India, but also the history of the national struggle, national movement and the freedom struggle, which they are doing by glorifying false heroes. I would say false heroes. For instance, Deendayal Upadhyay had nothing to do with the national movement. And Savarkar submitted 3 apologies to the British government, which this number of ordinary nationalists imprisoned for a long time never did. But these are their heroes now.
Now, how would this kind of distortion, there are a lot of people say it's a distortion, would take this country from here? BJP might lose in next election or the next, but it is about the country, it's about the preserving the real facts about and history of the country. How would you see the impact of such distortions in future?
So that's a very dangerous situation, because as in all countries, for instance, in United States, Ku Klux Klan has gone, but its ideology persists. So just because the BJP loses an election, it doesn't mean that its ideology goes. And sometimes other groups begin to rival it in the same field, whether you may call it soft Hindutva or give it any other name. So this is quite a dangerous situation.
Sir, history normally is poorly understood by common man. Those only who actually go in the higher education in history, they only understand history in a better sense. And a lot of historical facts. In such a sense, how should history be read in India? And how is normally history being spread and read across the country so that it becomes a part of the development process?
Well, you see, history can't become a part of the development process. History is a narrative about facts that we reconstruct from a large number of sources. And that is about memory and past. Just as an individual can't function without a memory, so a nation can't function properly without history. And just as an individual, if he has a false memory, will suffer, so a country which builds a false memory will also suffer, as like the Nazis did in the case of Germany, or Mussolini in the case of Italy, that building totally false histories of their own nations. So it is very important that the national memory should accord with facts. And just as an individual, memory must accord with facts. If he thinks he did this and did that, while he didn't do it, then of course he will not be able to function properly with fellow human beings, or really make himself a convincing individual in others' views.
So now I want to go to the last question to ask that it's not about this government. There are many state governments, many central governments tried to distort history or try to change history books, textbooks, some chapters in many ways. Now, is it entirely wrong, Or recently we saw there are many new facts or new figures have been included, like Narendra Modi ji's name is being included in the textbooks in Gujarat. Similarly, Amma's name has been included in Tamil Nadu and in different part of the country. Is it wrong? Like, is history supposed to be evolving?
Well, partly, of course, if you, as history proceeds, Modi's name would have to be in history because he's India's Prime Minister, as he was the Gujarat Chief Minister presiding over the Gujarat riots. And similarly, Amma's name as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. It's not having a name there, it's the problem of describing facts correctly. And that is the real issue in history. If your facts are wrong, your national memory is wrong then, and just as an individual can't proceed properly with a false memory, so a nation can't proceed normally with a false memory. If you say that you knew everything before, which science has now produced, this means that your scientific development will always be backward. You will not spend enough money on your scientific development because you are downgrading it already. So, for a scientific spirit to develop, it is certainly necessary that there should be critical historiography.
So any last word or last message, especially in the context of how should normal people read history, and especially when the country is going in another general election? Connecting with history.
Yes, well, I think that people should realize that we have a composite culture, we have a civilization in which there are various streams. Nobody has a monopoly over our civilization. This can be said of almost all countries. All countries have benefited from various trends. We may have benefited more than other countries. So let us have deep respect for our composite culture, as is enshrined in our constitution by a specific provision, and look for truth, as Gandhiji always insisted, not as how we would like our history to have been, but how it was actually been.
Right, sir. So we had Professor Irfan Habib. So as he lastly concluded, I would like to emphasize on that word that the very idea of nationalism that a particular party or government is trying to propose, it does not fit into the very idea of India, which is very diverse and complex culture. So in that context, do keep watching the Policy Times and definitely visit our social media pages. Thank you.